2 o'clock, that means a couple hours left in what is turning into be a pretty ugly day on top of what we saw yesterday post-Fed. A lot of people throwing in the towel, maybe, until the new year, possibly. Here's how things are shaping up as we head towards 2 o'clock. We're there, if you hadn't looked at a clock yet. 2.7 for the S&P at 2.7%. Look at the NASDAQ, 3.6%, 2.7 for the Dow as well. Ugly top to bottom here, 1.6 for the TSX here in Toronto, 0.8 down there for oil, 2.5%, 3% for Ethereum. And Bitcoin, a lot of people taking this hawkish talk from the Fed yesterday as maybe a reason to take some profits and maybe call it a year as far as what is happening with the overall market heading into the new year, coming off what we learned yesterday, that more hikes are to come and we will stay at a higher rate for longer, was essentially the message that was delivered from Fed Chair Powell yesterday. There's the S&P 500 currently 2.7%. Netflix down 9.3% today, dragging all the other streaming names along with it. Anything that's related to online advertising really having a tough day. Remember that ad-supported tier not doing so hot out of the gate here. We'll talk about Netflix coming up. Warner Brothers, Paramount, Meta, all downside. Google, yeah, Google down, I couldn't even say it, 5% for Google today. It's getting ugly right across the entire communications group. It's all about tech stocks right now, though. The entire group in the red, not even a single name higher. 8% for Western Digital, coming off a negative note and a downgrade on top of that. EPAM, 6.5%. It looks like leading the software names. Enphase and SEDG downside as well for clean energy names, but they're all here. NVIDIA is down 5%. That's the industrial group. There is one green name coming off earnings. A little bit of positivity in consumer durables, a little bit of positivity in the healthcare group, but that's basically all to speak of right now. Nucor is there as well, down 9% today, coming off that forecast cut going into not only Q4, but the remainder of 2022 and into 2023. Hope your afternoon's going a little bit better than the way that board looks right now. If your blotter's looking the same, maybe not. We'll get into a little bit of a chat here to kick things off, covering what we were looking at to start this morning. If you joined us in the pre-market at 8:30, make sure you're doing that every day. We get you set for the open every single day. Grab the watch list and then come join us at 8:30. And we prepare you best we can for the open. Neil's here. Something actually happened this morning in the pre-market that ended up being one of the best trades, or trade opportunities anyways, of the day. Neil's here. He's going to talk about that.
Yes, sir. Your trade of the day is going to be Netflix, brought to you by Day Trade the World as always. Now, we have a free watch list every single morning. We do our morning prep. I got all my levels. I got all the stocks I'm watching. And then all of a sudden, a story drops after I've done my preparation about Netflix and the fact that they might have to return some money to advertisers because they couldn't meet inventory, they couldn't meet minimum views. And the stock, I'll get to the daily chart in a minute, but it does this. And you look, if you're trading at 8 o'clock or 7:40 in the morning and you capture moves like this, fantastic. But if you're unprepared and you've just seen the stock drop $15 up from $315 to $300, you can get that sense of FOMO, but you always want to make sure you have a plan. Go to the higher time frame. I was going to use a daily, but I kind of felt the 60-minute, like the hourly chart, 60-minute was going to do a little bit better here to show you justice of these levels. So Netflix been a good runner. It had a nice little bounce just going back into late last month, off of about 275 there, made a recent high at 330. And then if you look where that gap consolidation had support, it was right in front of $300. Then a double top of sorts at 330, which is 10% from 300, and you've got yourself a bit of a channel. Now, obviously, with the move down, that channel had already been tested. Now, I'm going to kick myself a little bit here because I was in a consolidation short in the pre-market, but this was so early, and I wouldn't normally trade a stock like this at 8:30 in the morning, and I had a nice 302. It was about 302 and a quarter short that I had on, and I'm thinking, okay, I'll just get out in front of 300. The problem here is I wasn't really thinking a 305 out, which isn't that bad of risk to reward. What I was really looking at was this bottom channel here at about 306, and saying to myself, if I'm wrong at 306, Do I really favor a 302 short that I want to hold into the open? I don't. So when the market looked like it was trying to reverse, I just essentially got a flat. I might have made a few cents there, but it didn't matter. I wasn't holding that for $4 against me. That was not what I was looking for. Because then if 300 never breaks, then I can only win $2 to risk 4. It doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense. So I get out of the trade and then wait for that key level. Now, would it have worked? Yes, if I held on to that short, just an extra $2. Once 300 breaks, I'm thinking two things. First thing, on an even dollar break, you know it's a crowded trade. Everybody's going to be looking at it. Scalp, 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 the first thing. As easy as possible this one was going to be, because $2.99 got filled almost right away. And next thing you know, you're $2.98. So you scalp a buck, you scalp $2. Now you're holding on for house money. And the question becomes, where did I want to hang on to? This is where I'm brought down to this channel. That's about 292 on the bottom end of that channel. And this is going to be tough to see, but this little consolidation in here, and including this lower high, gives you about 88 to 92. So that's the channel that I was working with. And I would have said this in the morning show. Yeah, right around 290, because that's the middle of that channel, is going to be the target. Once it broke that low at 92, my trailing stop goes in. You're into that range at 92. I'm looking for a target exit in the bottom of that range. Hopefully you get 88 to 90. But once it broke that channel, it came right back up, failed the break of that said 92 level. That breakdown ends up being a failed break on a lower time frame chart. I'm going to trail out of it. At the end of the day, could I have gotten better? Yeah, you could have gotten an extra $1.50 out of it. When you're holding something a little bit longer, you want to make sure you have a reason to get out. All well and good. Did you say, oh yeah, I'm getting out on this wick, getting out on this wick? Scalp trade done. That's just even dollar. Take the first dollar, take the second dollar. But the next out, let it trend all the way towards the target zone. And when it failed that level, no problem getting out of it. The key here is, it is so easy to get FOMO when you see these types of candles. You know you want to be a part of this trade. Whether you're catching a bounce here, good luck if you did in the pre-market, or you're looking for a consolidation short. But it's not enough to just be in and say it would have worked. Where would your out have been? What is the structure of your trade? What were you looking for? Did you have a scalp trade? Did you have something you wanted to hold all day long? Whatever works for you, you have to come up with that plan first so you can take advantage when news hits and you have to quickly adjust to the new reality before the market opens there. That's why Netflix is your trade of the day. Tremendous opportunities every day in the market, but you don't always see this happen to a stock like Netflix.
When it does, you got to pay attention, and that's what we try to bring you every single day, guys. When opportunities arise, I mean, we plan and plan and plan as much as we can, but when opportunities arise out of the blue, we have to be able to shift gears, as Neil was saying, and focus our attention on the new opportunity. Netflix is moving, we should probably look at it. That's the link to the watch list. Wasn't on the watch list this morning because, hey, it happened after it was sent out. But make sure you grab that every single day. It has everything you need to know prior to the show starting at 8:30. I want to, Arun's back here this afternoon for us to get a look at the overall market to start things off. And I say this because we're now below and well below a significant level here for the S&P 500 after what happened yesterday afternoon. And I'm speaking of this over here on the daily chart. That got taken out early on this morning, guys, and there's been not even an attempt here to even retest this prior support here on the overall market.
Yeah, Brendan, I got one word, well, two words for you. There's the camera. That's all I got for you. That's essentially what this is all about at this point. Because the way this market's going, I mean, we can remove. Yeah, Neil's going off on that one there. 3,900.
You don't know Clay Davis?
No.
Clay Davis?
I'm too young for that. Sorry.
Downtown Clay Davis?
I'm too young for that. I'm sorry. Anyways, let's go to my screen, guys. Let's go to my screen here. I got a level to show off here. 3,900. That's the bottom end of the range going back to mid-November. We struggled, obviously, in the last little bit trying to get through 4,100. As it comes through 3,900, we're not that far away. We're 10 points away from taking that out. Odds are we will take a look at this. And I think the timing is very interesting because you have the rebalance tomorrow. And you know with the rebalances comes a lot of options activity, which sometimes leads to price pegging and whatnot. So And volatility as well. So the fact that we're sitting near 3,900 going into tomorrow makes it very interesting that we're about to lose a 1 month's worth of consolidation. And I think the bigger picture here, Brendan, is the fact that when you go to the weekly, this is the yearly chart. It's a weekly chart, but you can clearly see a clear trend on the year here. That's 2022 essentially right now. Right here, that's January of 2022 up at 4,800, and all we've done ever since is hit that trend line. In one case, we did crack right through it yesterday. Not yesterday. The day before, when we had that CPI number, we cracked through, came right back underneath. This could potentially open up the next leg down towards 3,700 and potentially that low here. So it doesn't look too good right now, especially with all of the weekly charts, the daily charts, and even the intraday chart trending like it is right now, going into a rebalance day, which is also obviously quad witching as well. So definitely an interesting and hopefully volatile session for us tomorrow, because you know we like volatility around here to make some trades.
Stories this afternoon or this morning as we got going was Tesla, obviously to the downside the past few days. Since the beginning of the week, we learned that from Monday through Wednesday, Elon sells 1.1 million shares, or roughly 3 billion-ish worth of his stock once again. I guess it's a matter of if he's done, then Tesla's now a buy, because here we are basically flat for Tesla today.
I suck at Tesla. A man's got to have a code, and sometimes that code. That's another line from The Wire, by the way. What's
crazy? I've watched The Wire. I just don't remember any of it. That's pretty much what it is. You guys make so many references to entertainment,
Arun,
and I just don't remember anything.
No, but it's worse that you've seen The Wire and you don't know Clay Davis.
I don't remember the name, but I'm sure if you showed me a picture of the character, I would be like, oh yeah, that guy.
I don't even know. I could do lines from The Wire forever, man. Yo, boss, I think Slim gonna have to sit this one out. You don't know that? See, that's Avon Stringer. I'm telling you, The Wire is the greatest show of all time.
The name Stringer does ring a bell because that's the one that Idris Elba played, right?
Yes.
Okay. See, I remember that one.
I gotta remind you who the heck you work for. That's another line from the.
There you go.
Anyways, I can do The Wire all day long.
That's what you should be saying to Tesla, because
I sucked at Tesla
today.
All I did was try to short Tesla and fail. I had a couple of good scalp trades on Tesla, but man, was this thing. It had my number. And you know what? If you guys watched the morning show, and I might have even tweeted this, which would be even more embarrassing if I did, I said I liked a 160 to 161 range for a top, not 160 and a half. 160 and a half just happens to be in between those two numbers, and you'll see what ends up happening here. Yeah, I take the short off 55. Once 55 breaks, okay, I sat it out. You're making the jailbreak from the bottom. I'll take that scalp hit, no worries there. Let's re-engage when it gets up to that 160 to 161 channel. Once it turned off 160, I jumped into a short. I had a 59.80 or something like that short. Scalp a buck out of it. Okay, everything's going fine. And then I get married to a line in a chart, which is essentially this 160.25 from yesterday, right? So I see this recent high, and then once I scalp out, I'm like, oh, I'll give it a few pennies past that. So I put up a 60.50 stop out, and don't even look back at it. But the entire point as to why I like to trade was the rejection of 161 at the open yesterday. This is hard to see on volume, but if you look at the open in yesterday's trade, the biggest volume candle isn't that big move up at the open. It's actually when it fails 161, you get the biggest volume spike of the day, and then it drops. That's why I like that 161 and to 160 to 161 area, because of the rejection at 61. It never even gets to that price. I think it printed like 95 or something, 160.95. I don't jump back into the trade, which is, and that's a cardinal sin. I did get back into Moderna. We'll talk about Moderna. Similar setup in Moderna, I did get back into it and got the W, but I just couldn't bring myself to get back into Tesla. I scalped it off VWAP. I actually made a couple bucks back and then re-entered and lost. And suddenly Tesla wants to move. It just turned red on the day. I think 56 feels like it's this weird wall that's been happening in the afternoon. And I suppose if that gets taken out, it could join the rest of the party to the downside here. But yeah, Tesla had my number today. And I was just saying earlier this week, since the price split, I just find myself being a little more sloppy. For whatever reason, when it was $500, I was way more disciplined and I'd stick to my plan a heck of a lot more. And I just find myself too tight a stop here or there, not re-entering the trade for whatever reason. I hate the stock trading at a cheaper price. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Tesla obviously making a move counter to the market today, only down 0.2 when the rest of the market's down, almost 3 and 4%. We did make some money on Tesla, but it's not in the direction you would think. We were actually short off of a 8:30 economic release, got a fill at 153.5, and then rode it down, looking for that 150 break. And then I started to notice that there was some action around 152.50. And I was like, okay, this is starting to get a little suspicious here. One, we know Tesla's been falling off for a while now. It's been trending down with the news confirming that Elon's been selling. At some point, we had to make a snapback rally. And I was just wondering if, as we're getting to 150, there's no real daily chart on Tesla at this point. So as we were going back to 150, I was like, there's a possibility that we snap through 150, like a trap move through 150 and then snap back up and rally. But once I started seeing the move around 152.5, I walked away from it. I did not flip because that means that if I go for the flip, I would need to put the stop at 150, and I don't want to get caught in that wash going into the open, right? You have to take this trade essentially at like 925 and gamble that it was going to go up versus down. I wasn't about that trade. So I did make money on the short side here, and then Tesla rallies up, does its thing, and now it started looking to take out that 156 low, consolidation low, and this is where I think things get a little dicey on Tesla. You look at the daily chart, you don't have a whole lot of support, right? You're on your own. There's nothing there to work with on the daily. So this market's going to do everything on a day-to-day basis at this point. There's no multi-day levels you can work with. What does Tesla do? Bounces up into this little congestion area going back 2 or 3 days here. North of 160, comes off again. Now we could essentially take this 150 if we end up back below 156, which happens to be the consolidation point. I think the trade is there. It's just a matter of what the risk is going to be when that level gets broken. Are we going to have to force the trade back towards 160 for it to be a confirmed fail? Or can you say, you know what, it's gone through 156, let's put a stop of 157 because it shouldn't bounce back up. I think that's what's up in the air at this moment. As long as this consolidation low gets taken out, we should take a look at that 150 low, 150 even level as the next target. But it all comes down to where the stop placement is, because Tesla, as we can see, can get quite expensive if you decide to take the wrong price and it takes a run here, which was about $8 this morning. So keep an eye on this one here, because it'll be definitely one to trade today, definitely one to trade tomorrow. Rebalancing issue, That's the other thing too, with rebalance coming up.
Right,
Tesla's weight is probably going to get reduced, which also means that a lot of people that are following the indexes are going to have to reduce some shares in Tesla. So there might be some more selling just because the index itself is going to have to reweight Tesla as a whole, which is going to force index followers to reweight their positions. So there might be a wave of selling coming tomorrow with the rebalancing. I think that's definitely going to be one to watch. Monday, sure, that's a different story, but tomorrow, keep an eye on the rebalancing as well, because Tesla might be under some pressure.
There wasn't much in the way of news catalysts today as far as big tech is concerned, but we still see a ton of relative weakness coming into play. I was just noticing, I mean, the guys in the midday were talking about this, but Apple, guys, right back to these lows once again. I mean, if you pull up a chart of the S&P or even the Qs, a little bit worse off, but Apple right back to these lows almost around 135 once again, down 4.75%, we'll call it here today for Apple, all basically because of the possibility of higher rates. There's no individual reason otherwise. I just checked. Unbelievable. It's been a long time. 23 times the earnings right now for Apple shares.
Yeah, look, everything is to the downside, but I mean, some of what's happening with big tech, like you see what's happening with Netflix, and there's other names that are worse percentage-wise, but in a day where Apple's pushing 5, Nvidia's pushing 4.25, I'm going to show Microsoft because that's the one that, when it got to 250, I think we were sort of, I don't know, I said it would be a crowded trade like the 300, and it ended up being a crowded trade. My 15-minute has this wick. I apologize, I can't really clean it up real time here, so I'll clean it up after. But there was that nice little shelf. It had support there last week. It's actually on Monday where it had support at 250. It had resistance at 250 last week. And so once that level was broken, I took 2 swings at it. The first short was like in and out. It didn't really want to go. And then sometimes it's the second time it goes through the level. Much like Amazon, I scalped some out. at that first even dollar, and then it got down to like 48.5. Eventually, it tried to hold a break of 48, and I ended up trailing it out there. So I am out of that trade, but it almost doesn't matter what you looked at today. I mean, we don't usually, I don't know if we don't really group, do we even group Meta in anymore?
Nope.
No, they're not, they don't.
They have zero, their weighting is much further out.
Yeah,
now,
Meta
so
doesn't, they don't count anymore in terms of being like big tech just because their market cap stinks. And we don't even, we have them up there on our board, but they're tiny, but they're getting crushed today, down 6%, actually broke 114 and came back actually just now. I think 113 is probably a better zone of support, 113, 113.5 for Meta. But what goes up must come down. Like we just did this, did we not? 122 to 114, back into the 120s, and then you're right back at the lows. And this is what's so crazy about this market and why sometimes you have to be willing to hold on. That's why Netflix, you wanted to hold on for the bigger move. Because these gaps, once they emerge, you want to let yourself hold on to them. Now, if I had 119 in Meta instead of Netflix, then I would be kicking myself if I didn't hold it down to 115 even. And if there's a bottom today, I tend to think it's a little closer to 113, 113.5. You won't see me bottom pick it down here. I will say this, it was rightfully pointed out in the chat, and I'm watching it here as well. UVXY, and if you're following the VIX, it doesn't, same sort of idea. The charts are going to be near identical, but if you look back at like 790 here, volatility obviously going up when we have a day like today in the market, but you're starting to get to a level where if we get to this, cannot break through, and I see a corresponding long that I like at a key support level, I'll probably go ahead and pull the trigger in the afternoon. Meta 113 would be something along those lines. Microsoft, I think it was like 246 I liked on Microsoft. I don't think we see that. But Meta definitely close enough. Big tech getting crushed. Not much you can do about it. You had to just hold on to your shorts today. And even then, I didn't hold on long enough.
Yeah, going back to Meta, just a quick thing on Meta and its weighting, why I personally feel that Meta shouldn't be in this category of big tech. Let's go to my screen here. This is the weighting. As of Slick Charts does a pretty good job with the weighting. Obviously, we know Apple's there, Microsoft's there, Amazon's there. NVIDIA is now in the number 4 spot. Then you have the two Apple or the Alphabet shares there. Tesla is in the number 7 spot. Pepsi has more weight than Meta does at the number 9 spot. So I think Meta should fall off at this point. Meta and AVGO almost have the same weighting. So I think in terms of big tech, you got to include NVIDIA. You got to replace NVIDIA or Meta with NVIDIA at this point. So
that's why I was saying NVIDIA 4.2, because that matters more.
So, I mean, with NVIDIA falling off, and we had a great trade on NVIDIA on the short side earlier today. And you know what? We're going to talk about NVIDIA, since I was going to talk about Apple at 140. But you know what? NVIDIA was a great trade for us today. So we're going to talk about that instead. So NVIDIA was, let me find the position here. It's somewhere here. There we go. So this was our short, again, pre-market off the economic number, 173.47 was the entry point. So that was a trade there. Got some out in front of 170, got some out as it came back through 168, flirted with the idea of a long here for a hot minute, and then I'm like, no, I don't like this market. We walked away. Obviously, you can talk about it after the fact, but that was our short in NVIDIA. Now, you go to the daily, and this is kind of what I was looking at here. We've now gotten underneath, this red line here was about 175 and change. And I wanted to see how we would handle coming into that, because that was the high for a couple days here before we gapped back underneath. So I'm like, okay, let's come into today. How are we going to deal with it? We've had 2 days in a row of selling. We come into it this morning, and where is it at? It's down here at 173. That's my red line. I'm like, oh, okay. So that we just took out those 2 days worth of highs here around 175. We've kind of tried to stay above, lost it completely. We should have a nice little sell on any sort of move to the upside. I was lucky enough that we had that economic number to pop the market a little bit, got the short, and then worked our way through 170, knowing that 168 could become a problem. 168 to 170 was this area. So obviously I was like, you know what? If it starts to hold in this area, I got to walk away from it, because we've had some trouble here before, hence why I targeted 170, and then why I was kind of really managing this closely at 168. Once we started having issues, I was done. I'm like, at this point, no more. I don't need any. I'm done with that short. The short has run its course. But that does not negate the fact that this daily is still available for shorts in the event that it actually comes back into the 175s against the 180. So that trade is still on the table, just not today. I think we've hit our target for today on NVIDIA. Even if we bounce back, there should be some trades on the table here back as we bounce into the 175s and 180s. I would definitely keep an eye on NVIDIA, and I think we talked about this as well. Apple. Apple, 140, that's gone. I guess now we gotta look at 134 something, whatever the low here is. But Apple's chart being the biggest weight in the NASDAQ and the S&P overall, it doesn't look too good right now. Right now there, Brendan, in the big tech.
Yeah, it's not a good looking chart for Apple on a higher time frame, that is for sure. Yeah, I mean, NVIDIA told the story for chips today. This was the note, if you missed it, in the pre-market from HSBC initiating coverage at Reduce, which is the first I've seen, talking about weak demand going into, first I've seen on the Reduce note, talking about weak demand going into the beginning of next year. So that kind of told the story as far as chip makers were concerned today. This was yesterday for Moderna, 2 days in a row to the upside. We were wondering this morning whether or not it was going to be a fade, kind of setting up as maybe a first red day kind of a trade. Begrudgingly, I guess is a good word, went down eventually, but you had to be super patient here, guys, depending on what level you were using from over here. Did test those highs a couple times.
Yeah, and look,
we both have the same reaction to Moderna.
I guess we all had it because
Brendan had it too.
Brendan had it too.
Okay. At least Neil and I had the same reaction to Moderna because I'm just like, really? Like, well, I'll talk about my trade. I know you've got a couple trades on Moderna as well. I'll talk about mine after.
Okay, so you guys all saw what happened to me on Moderna yesterday. Like, there's nothing flattering. Like, the stock was crazy yesterday. Just not quite as crazy to the upside as it was on Tuesday because that day was insane. And the good thing about when it goes super parabolic is, this is weird to say, it's a little bit easier to be patient when like the more harsh the move is. And I think that's why I was able to walk away relatively unscathed, keep a couple of tight stops. And then when it reversed, it gave you literally a $10 pullback. It wasn't that hard to take a couple of losing trades in there for $1 or so, and then when you get the short, it's fine. But I shorted it 6 times in a tighter range yesterday and ended up down. It was my worst stock of the day. Today, I just like the head and shoulders notion off that 208 area. Now, I was in it early and got stopped out, but then it made this lower high in a 15-minute time frame. But it was a double top at 212.50. And when it failed it the second time, unlike Tesla, I'm getting in on that top. It still gave me that entry point. Now, where things went wrong for me is I got out twice before it got to 205. And that was a mistake. And eventually, it ends up holding this 204, 205 area, and I end up getting trailed out anyway, so I never really got that breakdown. It didn't get to 200, so no matter what, it didn't hit target at 200, and then it ends up coming right back above that 204 low. So I'm either trailed out the last of it at 04 or at 06, and I'm not getting a $10 or $12 winner or whatever it would have been. That wasn't going to be in the cards today, but I could have done a little bit better with more patient exits. And even right now, I'm kind of asking myself, do I want to be, if this gets back to 208, do I want to be short this in the afternoon? But what's interesting is it's basically bounced $5 when I look over at the ES that has not broken the bottom channel. That's what's giving me pause. If it's so weak and I should still like the short, then why the heck is it bouncing so well this late in the day? So I'm going to kind of stay away from this one. And I have to say this. There was an hour-long argument that I thought I was going to talk about and explain between Fahad and myself and,
we'll get into it.
and Lucas and I know Arun, you were in there, Brendan was in this, and it had to do with like, is a near certain bet gambling or not? When they do these promotions on like DraftKings and it's like, oh, will Steph Curry get 1 point, or will Floyd Mayweather land a single punch, and it's done as a promotion to get you to put some money in there, and then hopefully you keep your money in. That's their idea. Is that actually gambling? Of course the answer is yes, because it's not 100%. There's a non-zero chance that one of those things will happen. Fahad, of course, decided he wanted to argue the other side of that because that's what he does. But the other thing that just happened was Lucas on our production crew, because I was kind of messing around before the trade of the day and I was getting limbered up and I did a pistol squat. He's like, I could do that. And I'm like, no, you can't. There is a 0% chance. There's no chance. This is a 0% chance Lucas, there's no way you can do a pistol squat. I've seen you play basketball. There is no chance, not one, butt to the ground on one leg pistol squat. If you can do it, I'll eat crow. You come up with what I have to do if you do it live on camera today. And if you don't know what a pistol squat is, I don't even mind. I'll demonstrate one for you at some point. But we have to get to the market, and we have Peter Schiff coming on in 15 minutes, so maybe we leave it till after that. But there's no point putting up a poll, guys. He can't do it. You can't do it. It's not going to happen. It's incredibly difficult. Respect to anybody that can. It takes years of practice. I mean, I couldn't do it
to be fair, Lucas has been going to the gym with Fahad to work out. But we all know how it ends up going when you go work out with Fahad. So I have, I kind of believe you. And, yeah, he's in our ear. Anyways, we'll go to Moderna. We'll deal with this after because I have a lot to say about that argument that Fahad and I had. Anyways, we'll talk about that. I just want to get Netflix out of the way before we continue on. Moderna, by the way, this was my trade on Moderna. I obviously screwed up. Went for the short at 208, said 212 was a stop. The high of the day at that point was 212.50. Neil also mentioned to me as I was taking the out, it's like, oh, the high is 212.50. Why would you get out there? I'm like, I don't know, because I'm going to do it here. And then it just completely decided to fall off afterwards. So yeah, that's where.
You know what? My question. See, this is my whole thing. Like, if you're going, can you put back on Arun's chart? Because I've been in this position before. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you guys see me. I make the top wick all the damn time, shorting things that are strong. But if you're gonna try to short it, give it to the high. Like, you know what I mean? Like, at least let it run everybody's stops.
I just discount because I'm all about volume, and I try to discount the initial pop. Because if you're gonna put in that top wick off the open, there's probably very little volume done up there. That's why I kind of just don't. But you're absolutely right. You should give it at least the high. And in this case, if it's 50, I would just, you should give it to at least 213. I think even would be the smarter idea. Try to avoid using halves as stops because they really don't hold that well. But yeah, that's my trade on Moderna. And clearly, that was the exit point and decided to trend for the most part all the way down to 206. That could have been a nice $2 to $3 winner. But hey, we ended up taking the hit. At least we made money on Tesla and NVIDIA to kind of cover the hit here.
Speaking of NVIDIA.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Team PJ. I love that one. Team PJCT in the chat there, rightfully pointing out, I was going to talk about Carvana a second, but let's go back to NVIDIA because NVIDIA does have this double top, and it was rightfully so. This is 169.35, lower high in the morning. It broke VWAP, got to 169.77. Got all these crazy, there's a lot of dark pool wicks today. I don't know if you guys are seeing this too, but they're all over my chart, these little dark pool prints out of nowhere. But you've got a nice double top, both here recently, in front of 170, but then you kind of go back to lunchtime. So NVIDIA, I like to short in front of 170. If it breaks, I know I'm kind of wrong here. And if the market breaks out of this channel, I don't know. Like, I'm looking for some things here outside of the Delta long that I've been still in from this morning. I'm looking for some things that can break the channel up, and NVIDIA kind of could do that. But until it's above 170, I'll still try for that short trade. I'm feeling too bearish today, Brendo.
All right, for anyone that missed it this morning, we covered Netflix at 2 o'clock here, but here's a note that came across just after we came on this morning at 8:30, talking about the ad-supported business. Not necessarily going to plan so far. It's been a slow start as far as deliverable views, specifically for Netflix here. Was down on this, it was DigiDay that reported this morning, website. So basically they're saying that they're selling ads based on expected views. They're falling short of that number and then having to refund at least a portion of what they're being paid. So they're delivering, guys, only 80% of the expected audience that they were saying they were going to when it started.
Oh, well, Netflix.
Not good enough.
Nope.
So yeah. I was actually just asking this in the chat, so I'll just say it out loud so that Brendan hears me. I missed what happened here. It was right before we came on air, and it's like right before we come on, get a chance to go to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff before we come on, do the close for you guys. But there was this huge volume spike where I just got into NVIDIA, where we bounced off 86 and got all the way up to like 291, a $5 move that was legitimate. It was on a real volume. So as we get back to this level, because this is that same, remember that 291 I was sort of talking about, like it bottomed out, double bottom 291. I trailed out here when it held 93. Well, support turned into resistance. I usually like shorting a level like this. Wow, NVIDIA is starting to go here. That 170 came pretty quickly here on NVIDIA. This could break pretty quick. But I'm thinking about, do I want to be shorting this off this level? But I didn't really see what happened, so I want to stay away from just blindly shorting that level at this point. But part of me thinks, hey, why not? This level looks pretty good. But Brendan, I know you know what happened.
Sorry, guys, I should have mentioned this, but they actually came out. Netflix actually came out and said their, what was the actual word they used? Successful launch. So they're pleased was the word. They're pleased with a quote-unquote successful launch of the ad tier business. So that caused that move back to the upside there just before 2.
Okay, so that's, yeah, their comment. But that makes sense. If they're happy with it, then maybe that means they expected that this could be the case. But I did just get NVIDIA. I'm short 72. I should have 85 or 90 short, not 72. That's not the greatest price because now I'm going to risk like 40, 50 cents, depending on where slippage ends up being. I have my stop order in place. If it gets back to VWAP, fine, but this market is showing some signs of attempting a bit of a breakout here. So I want to respect that fact. And if we get through that 170 by even a few cents, I got to get away from it. Even, I mean, Meta's going as well. I wanted to get to Carvana. I keep meaning to talk about it, and now that we're, unless you wanted to talk about Netflix there, I did want to get to another name here, Carvana, because this is breaking back down. I'm going to cancel my 550 offer. I don't think I'm going to see that. But it's starting to break a channel down here beneath VWAP. So there are some things that are parabolic movers that are coming back into play. Had a great bounce off 5. I think Luca talked about it. I don't know if he had it. I hope he did. That was a great little consolidation breakout. But it's looking like it's failing VWAP here. And if it breaks this channel to the downside, I'm looking to get into some Carvana to the short side and then give it back up to this 545 to 550 area. So it hasn't broken the channel yet, but when it does, I'm looking to short Carvana. I was short off the $6 level, but that's come and gone. On to the next.
Yeah, I mean, I usually don't touch Carvana, but at the same time, Netflix, I mean, the very clear trade today was that 300, but as you guys may have watched from this morning, my hesitation with that 300 is it breaks the daily, it sets up a nice little breakdown. The issue is with a round number like that, are they going to actually keep the stop? Is it going to be a stop run or is it going to be an actual breakdown and hold? And you know, when you wait for that breakdown, you wait to see how it comes back up to it. And I think on the 5-minute, you see it, right? This is the breakdown. They took 2 attempts at it. The first attempt took us down to 298. Second attempt took us down to 296, and then we bounced. We tried to bounce up into 300, and we didn't really get that far. And you have to be watching it at this moment to realize, you know what, Netflix isn't going to go. You probably can get 298 and change, 298 half, and you put the stop just north of 302 and call it a day. That's probably a good short. But with that early in the morning, you have a ton of options on the table in terms of stock choices, right? So you do have to be aware of where your entry price is and what your criteria for entry is. And in Netflix's case, I think the movement was just happening so quickly at a time where your attention is elsewhere. And I think NVIDIA just broke out 170
Oh,
there.
it just broke.
Yeah. So I think for Netflix, just keep an eye on this one. I think today's trade may have run its course, but at the same time, now we're under 300. That opens up the entire level here. And this is going to be a tough one, actually, in terms of volatility, because 300 break then opens up a whole host of problems above it because there's a gap. They're all pretty much all the way up to 320. There's a gap and some previous highs that have failed. So there's a lot of space for Netflix to move around. This is where momentum players get to have their fun, because when you have spreads like this, or at least gaps that you can work with in a big way, there's a lot of opportunity for momentum plays that you can get $1, $2 here, or $3 here on a quick level break or something like that. So there's a wide zone to be played on Netflix. The 300 break opened the door to the downside, but definitely in the event that this market does some sort of short covering rally or even sort of move back up away from this 3,900 for the time being, not that it won't continue later on, but at least for the time being, if it does make a move back up, I would definitely keep an eye on this 300 all the way up to 320, big wide zone to play some momentum moves.
So just based on that, just you guys already saw that the market rebounded just there. I had the 170 out. I was a little bit late to try to get the reversal. I just got it now at 18s, which is thankfully it popped up, came back in there. So I do have an 18 long, and NVIDIA is now at 170.50. So I want to take some out of this and then play the dips, because it might be a dip down to 169.80 now that I look a little bit closer at it. So this is starting to go back to the upside. I'm glad I didn't take Netflix short, by the way, because load up chart. My charts just gave me some problems, and now all of a sudden they're not even scaled properly. Hang on a second, I just want to fix this. Whatever, I'll fix it in a second. But Netflix did just get up to that 291, 292 area and is starting a bit of a curl. So it's putting in a rejection. When they drop that, everything is going fine, release, or whatever you want to call it. It was a 291 top, 291 and a half top. It's actually just gotten to that price and put a reversal on. So this does set up for me, now that you're actually not through that I can go 91 short, risk less than $1, which I like risking less than $1 on a $300 stock. If you can risk less than $1, I think you got a pretty good entry price. And then even a muted pullback comes back to here, that's better than 1-to-1. But I'm not going to chase it $1 away from me. I want the short at 291, give it to 291.5 here, and then see if I can get a pullback. But I am now long in NVIDIA just to cover that. Someone just asked me about, they didn't just ask, but they asked earlier about Roblox. And I had meant to get to it, and then I got a little bit distracted. Roblox comes all the way back to VWAP. I don't think there's, look, Netflix had a bad day. Roblox said, hold my beer, and went down over 17% at one point. Another channel bottom break here on this, but it's made a heck of a rally. The only problem, it's still beneath this 28. There was the last long consolidation was right here at 28. It's hard for me to not want to just say, who really is confident going in holding these longs for the rest of the year? Relief rally, fine. It's already given you $1 and change. I'll take a shot at this 28 for a short, albeit I always prefer failed breaks on stocks like this that are a little bit more thin, but I might just stick in front of the 28 level and just say, let's work this one here, because the pullback, again, just like Netflix, a muted pullback would be fantastic. It doesn't even have to give you that big of a move for the risk to reward to work on a 28 short. So I kind of feel a lot of these things are shorts till they're not. If you got the long off the bottom, it's already paid you. Like, do I want to chase this and long beneath VWAP? That's never an entry for me to a long. Down here, fine. Down here, fine. Up here, I'm always thinking short off the next level. Next level's 28.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the rundown. We took care of everything. And I think before we get to our guest, which is probably in a few minutes, I have an important question, and this is related to Fahad and the argument that we had. His stance is that if you make a bet and you win that bet the very first time, which is a gamble, and you take out your money that you won. So if you put up 15 bucks and you now won 30 and you took out 15, the remaining 15, if you keep making bets with the remaining 15, it's not gambling. This is his opinion. It's not gambling because it's not your money.
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
It's house money, so it's not gambling is his argument. Now, I personally think every decision you make that puts down money on the line is a bet. And if it's a bet, then technically it would fall under gambling.
You ever heard of a dictionary? Like,
but Fahad stands by that.
Things have definitions, and sometimes they just matter.
We try to talk some sense into him. He clearly doesn't. He refuses to accept that because
it's this simple. If you did said action, you could be like, if there's a state where gambling is illegal, and you gamble with house money, would you still be breaking the law? Of course you would be. Or they go, I'm sorry, sir. You were betting with house money? That's fine. We'll just look the other way. It doesn't make it. Come on, son. Fahad, come on, son. Come on, Fahad, come on, son. Come on, son.
Trader Gorno, you know who cares? We don't. Fahad does, though.
He
really does.
But also, I'm still waiting for Lucas to do this
the pistol squad too. Yeah, you should do that.
But we have Peter Schiff coming on in a couple of minutes. Like I said, we're gonna. We got other things to cover here, and the market's starting to make a bit of a rebound as well. So we'll get to that. I'm not going to forget. Even if I have to remember that tomorrow, I got no issues. I will remember that one tomorrow. I just got into Roblox. I'm giving it to 28. I just grabbed 80s to the short side. I know it says 82s, but effectively 80, risk 20 cents. 80, 82 is kind of the same thing. NVIDIA did just bounce back to 170.50, but it can't seem to break too much higher. Netflix I never actually got into just now, which I said I didn't want to chase it, and I'm not going to, but I just tried to get those 91s. It's now at 90.50. This might still come back and get me in here to be able to short this last little pop, but if this gets through 291.5, like you could be up at 94, 95. Like I wouldn't be stubborn about that short. I'm trying to risk 50 cents to $1 on that Netflix short if I can even get it.
Yeah, I mean, this market bouncing. Let's take a quick move take a quick look on the futures before we get to our guest. Futures market Is it a surprise that it's making a bounce this late in the day? Not really. With shorts on the table, trending down pretty much all day. Ever since, what is this, about 8:15 in the morning, since we broke down through those 85s, essentially that just started a move where every pop was sold, right? We saw that move at 8:30, the one that got me some shorts filled, that got sold. Then we tried another attempt at 9, then a 9:30 pop, and then down we go. We tried another move down up to 50 around 10, that got sold. Tried again at 12:40, that got sold. With that much selling that's been done, at some point, there's bound to be some short-term traders involved, right? So at some point, there's going to be some profit taking happening, and I think that's what you're starting to see here as it has based out through those 10s and now making a move back into 30. Keep in mind, though, this is an area where we had some problems before, pretty much from about 45 to about 30. So it's about a 15-point range where there's been an issue with some volume here. So as much as we are rallying up, it's still technically in a trend line. I think the trend line, I don't have a moving average here, I don't have a trend line drawn, but I'd say by visually looking at this, the trend would break essentially once we broke 50.
Yeah, that's about
right. So if we break 50, the trend would be over. Up until that point, I would just be wary of any sort of moves to the upside. If you may have limited space to the upside, this could easily be another short setup as it comes back up into these 30s. So just be aware that this, I suspect that this is, shouldn't surprise me either if this is short covering. If this, however, accelerates back through 50, this might be a little bit more interesting on the daily as well, because we know the daily looks good on the 3900 break, right? So definitely keep an eye on this market. It's making the right move at the right time, which is a counter trend move as we head into the final hour. We're at about 245 right now. So definitely keep an eye on this, but I'd just be wary about the strength of this upside move.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Like, I've just made sure, because I didn't actually put that stop in. I said NVIDIA, that could be a dip to it's 169.80, not the 170. I'm long in front of 170, but that could be 169.80. Then I didn't put my stop in. This is not a time where you don't want to be having a stop if you're going to be taking a long. I'm still not going to cancel my Netflix, but I did just put my first take profit, I should say, on Roblox here as it started to wind down a little bit. And it's just going to be in front of 2760. Not rocket science. You can look at this at about noon when it had this nice flat shelf breakdown, or flat bottom breakdown. That's what Sharif calls it. I like flat bottom breakdown. When it was right at about 2760, that was that resistance. So I'm going to get some out in front of that. Next level down, 2740. Carvana still holding basically flat. That one looks like it's going to be okay. And Diamond Realty of Miami with the 305 super chat. I love it. You know what? We don't even ask you guys to hit super chat, but if you're going to use the super chats, I love it when you guys give a creative number right there. So it was 305. Smash the like, he says, from the 305, the MIA. I wish I was there because we're getting freezing rain here tonight. If you're in the GTA, good luck getting home and stay safe, because it's probably going to be pretty ugly on the roads today. Arun, I know you drove in today, so best of luck. But yeah, thank you so much for the support, guys, and thank you for the super chat. We don't ask for them, but we're always happy when we do get them.
Yeah, I mean, 305. I mean, that's the second time. Who was the other one? Playmaker. He does 305 super chats all the time.
We got the Miami in the house, man.
They like watching us suffer in the snow, eh?
See, that's where the first meetup should be. I still say Vegas because I've never been to Vegas, embarrassingly enough. But the second one should then be in Miami. Now, Miami, I didn't spend some time in Miami, and it's a good city. I have a good story about Liv. I'm not going to get into that because I can get off topic. But I have a fantastic story. A buddy of mine's bachelor party when we decided not to go to Liv. And if you know anything about Miami, not going to Liv at a bachelor party is, I don't even know what it's like. Basically, like, imagine you got invited to the Playboy Mansion for a bachelor party, and then it's like, we don't feel like it. We're not going to go. We're just going to say no. It was that kind of a thing, and we basically didn't do it. Fahad, stop. It's like, you just give it up. You're wrong. Accept that you're wrong. The thing about in trading, if you don't accept that you're wrong in trading, you're going to go broke. So we're giving life advice and trading advice to Fahad, who's interested in trading. If you make an argument and you're wrong, Fahad, stop.
He can't go broke if it's not your money. Here's the problem with Fahad. He talks all this nonsense in our ears, and then when he's supposed to follow through with the action, because I still remember when you and Sean, after the end of the day on Friday, were like, oh, Fahad's going to come in on Monday on his day off to sit and trade. And then what does Fahad do? Not show up because he was supposed, don't use him as an excuse. No, listen, it doesn't matter. Listen, Fahad was supposed to show up to show you guys how good of a trader he is. And he talked all that smack, and then he never showed up on Monday. That's all I know. Regardless of what other excuses he has, he never showed up. So I feel like this is one of those situations where he's talking smack again, only for him to not deliver on the actual product. And in this case, he's just not delivering, period. I don't even know what he's talking about anymore.
See, this is sort of the thing. Like anybody can make a rant or you sort of have an opinion or whatnot. But Fahad, our main man, we love you, Fahad, on our production crew. You talk a lot of smack. You've got to be able to back it up. That's what real conviction is. And it's sort of, you got to be able to do that. Actually, I think it's pretty cool that we're going to have somebody who has some conviction. So actually, you know what? Fahad, I want to make sure that you listen closely because we've had Peter Schiff on the show before. There's somebody that actually has conviction with what they're saying and then sort of follows through on that. Not just sort of running their mouth about LeBron James this and blah, 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 and just jumping from place to place saying a bunch of nonsense. So without further ado, let's go to Brendan because I do believe we are ready to have Mr. Schiff.
All right, guys. Yeah, as promised, we are happy to have the CEO and Chief Global Strategist of Euro Pacific Capital, Peter Schiff, back with us for a second time on the show. It's great to see you, Peter. We appreciate your time as always.
Sure. Thanks for having me on. I had the time wrong, so I had to rush in here.
No worries. No worries. Thank you for taking the time. A lot to talk about. A lot has happened, obviously, over the past not only week, but months. This year has been full of promises, I guess, that have not been fulfilled as far as what has come from the government in the U.S. and this policy making that continues to be the conservative side, to say the least. Give us your thoughts here just in general. I want to dig into the jobs report going back to November. I want to talk a little bit about the last two CPI prints now going back to the downside. But give us your thoughts overall here coming off what happened yesterday.
Well, I think Powell continues to, whether it's delusional or just wishful thinking or, just propaganda from the Fed, but he's in denial of the tremendous problem that the U.S. economy is in, and probably because the Fed is one of the main reasons that we're in this situation. But there's really no way out because the Fed for the last decade or so has flooded the economy with inflation. I mean, inflation has been the deliberate policy goal of the Fed. The Fed has tried to bail us out of every other problem by creating inflation. And inflation showed up in the stock market, in the real estate market, and nobody really had a problem with it because people thought they were richer. But now the inflation has moved into consumer goods, and that's where it's going to stay. And consumer prices are headed much, much higher. And the rate hikes that we've seen thus far are too little too late to make a difference. The Fed is way behind the curve when it comes to quantitative tightening. They've barely shrank the balance sheet. It needs to shrink a lot more. But the problem is the economy is now so levered up based on the fact that the Fed left rates so low for so long that you can't restore normal rates, let alone the restrictive type of rates that would be needed to rein in the inflation without creating a financial crisis that's on an order of magnitude greater than what we had in 2008, except we can't have any bailouts. So we have to allow the collapse to happen, which we didn't do in 2008. So it means stock crash, real estate crashes, bond crashes. We have a lot of companies going bankrupt. We have government slashing spending and defaulting on a lot of commitments, like paying benefits to people, Social Security, Medicare. A lot of commitments have been made by the government that it can't keep, especially if the Fed is committed to reducing inflation.
You had a great conversation recently on another show talking specifically about the jobs number and talking specifically about how we saw that tick back to the upside back in November. It was 263,000 versus 200. The versus doesn't really matter, but talk a little bit about why that is, why we're seeing still so much underlying strength in the labor market when Fed Chair Powell is specifically pointing to needing to see that weakness in the labor market before he can wave the checkered flag.
Well, first of all, a weak labor market is not going to bring down inflation. It will actually end up exacerbating inflation. But we don't have a strong labor market. We have a very weak labor market. The jobs that are being created are pretty much all part-time jobs. And the reason we have all these part-time jobs is because people who currently have full-time jobs can't pay their rent. They can't put food on the table. They can't pay for their electric bills or gas for their car. And so people are moonlighting. People need second and third jobs because the job they have doesn't pay enough. Now, if we really had a strong jobs market, one job would be all you needed. The fact that so many Americans need several jobs is, a function of how weak the job market is. In fact, you can look at the number of young people, the percentage. You have almost 50% of people between 19 and 29 that still live with their parents. I mean, this is, the highest we've had, I think, since coming out of the Great Depression. But the reason that so many young people can't afford to move out is because they don't have a job that pays enough to pay the rent. So that is a weak labor market. And, I think some of the jobs are going to retired people who can no longer afford to be retired because their incomes have been eviscerated by inflation. And of course, when I'm talking about inflation hurting people, it's the government, because the government creates the inflation. It's like a tax. So we only have inflation because of government spending and Fed money printing. It's not something that just naturally happens in the economy. In a normal free market economy, prices go down every year, and that's a good thing. When they don't go down, when they go up, it's because the government creates inflation, and we pay those higher prices in lieu of taxation, but it all goes to finance government.
And on that note, I want to get your thoughts here on what we heard yesterday in the Q&A portion of the press conference from Fed Chair Powell. In that, he pointed specifically to services now and the inflation surrounding services staying high. Not only is it high, but staying high as we're seeing other prices come down. As you were saying, I mean, go to a grocery store even, the price of goods is still on the way up. But yet they're pointing to now services being the problem, not products specifically.
Well, first of all, prices aren't really coming down. I mean, maybe some prices aren't going up as fast as they were a few months ago, but that's only temporary. But I think you're seeing certain prices maybe coming down, like maybe there's some companies going out of business sales, and so they may be marking down their products. But once they're out of business, then what happens? Once we deplete a lot of this inventory, prices are going to go up a lot more. Now, I think real estate prices are starting to come down finally, but that doesn't mean that buying a house is cheaper. It's actually more expensive because the mortgage rates have gone up so much. But of course, when you buy a house, it's not just the mortgage payment. The insurance costs have gone through the roof. Maintenance costs, utility costs, the other costs associated with home ownership have moved up dramatically. So even if the price of the house goes down, the cost of living in it is going way up.
He mentioned a 5.1% terminal rate as far as where they want to get to. I'm going to ask you whether you think that's where we should be or where we need to be. And I know what your answer is going to be, but I mean, at 5.1, we're at 4.5 now. What does that do?
Well, obviously that's not high enough. I mean, I wouldn't lend money at 5% with inflation. I think it's at least twice that high, but even the government's own numbers are 7%. And so I'm not going to make a loan to lose money, because if I'm going to lend somebody money and they're going to pay me back in dollars that have lower purchasing power than the ones I loaned, I need an interest rate that's high enough to compensate me for that loss and the taxes that I'd have to pay on the nominal rate. So rates are still much too low, given how high inflation is. And of course, we need savings. If we're going to reduce inflation, we need people to spend less and save more. Nobody is going to save when the rate that you get on your savings is less than the inflation rate. And so, the rates are not high enough. I mean, they would probably have to go into double digits to actually be effective. But the problem is the country would completely implode with that type of an interest rate because we have too much debt. So we'd have to allow a lot of the debt to go into default. A lot of people would lose money. It would be a very painful adjustment But unfortunately, what's going to be even more painful is runaway inflation, which is what we end up getting because the Fed doesn't have any stomach for that pain.
We heard a quarter or 25 basis point hike could be on the table as we go into February next year. I want to get your thoughts, first of all, on what happens in February, because now we have, a month and a half of time here to see what happens on the economic front as far as data is concerned before they meet again. So part A, and I guess part B is simply, what does that do to the dollar here? Have we seen the highs finally on the DXY?
I think so. The dollar's rallying today, but I think it's, broken the momentum that it had. And, other central banks are raising rates as well as the Fed. And so I don't think the Fed has, that advantage anymore. But we have, huge trade deficits and budget deficits. I think the fundamentals in the U.S. are much worse than a lot of other major economies, and it should weigh heavily on the value of the dollar. So I expect the dollar to fall, and that's just going to worsen the inflation problem in the United States because the strong dollar has insulated us somewhat. As bad as it's been, it would have been worse if the dollar had not gone up as much as it did against other currencies, because that helped control the price of our imports. But as the dollar loses those gains and starts to fall, then the cost of imports really starts to rise, and that's going to bleed into the CPI because most of what we buy, at least the stuff that we buy, is imported, and it's going to cost a lot more as the dollar goes down.
Heading into next year here, I checked this morning, the PE ratio for the S&P 500 as a whole around 19 now, multi-year lows on that aspect. As far as investors are concerned today, what can we be doing today to help with, what seems to be an unavoidable recession that's coming?
Yeah, well, we're already in a recession. I mean, it's more likely a depression that's coming, an inflationary depression. I mean, this is a real economic disaster that is the consequence of more than a decade of reckless monetary and fiscal policy. And we're going to have to pay a huge price for those mistakes. You mentioned the stock market. Of course, it's dramatically overvalued. It's priced for 0% interest rates, but that's not a natural rate of interest. Interest is the price of money. And in countries that have a lot of debt and minimal savings, interest rates should be very high. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to have very high interest rates at some point in the country. And everything that was built on the foundation of low interest rates is going to implode. Powell yesterday said, nobody knows what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to have a recession. We don't know if it's going to be mild or severe. No, we know what's going to happen. We saw 2008. We know what happens when you have a lot of debt and then interest rates go up. You have a financial crisis. That's what we're going to have this time, except we have even more debt, so we're going to get an even bigger financial crisis.
All right, I want to shift gears here and talk a little bit about where we can be looking for some possibilities of upside right now. If you go back to November, China's Golden Dragon Index was up 42% on the month, which was the top performing index for the month of November. The main index over in Germany was 28%, I think it was somewhere around there, was number 2. Can those types of gains outside of North America, the biggest economy in the world, obviously, continue at this point?
Well, we're going to see some rather spectacular returns on non-U.S. investments for the remainder of the decade. How they end up finishing the remainder of 2022, it's hard to say. But I think the emerging markets, and that would include China, but I think they're going to do very well in a weak dollar environment. But there already are some bull markets. Look what's happening with precious metals. Silver's had better than a 30% rally off the low. That's a bull market based on the way anybody wants to look at it. You've seen mining stocks up 30 to 40% from their lows over the last few months. I think they're now in bull markets. So there's a lot of potential there. In fact, the portfolios that we manage, I haven't checked today, but before today, our main strategies, our value accounts and our dividend payers accounts, were all positive on the year. So despite the fact that the markets have been killed, our stock strategies, which are 100% long and pretty much fully invested and not short, we're still positive on the year. So if you're investing in value, if you're investing for dividends, I think there's still a lot of upside, especially outside the United States. Our foreign stocks have gone up this year despite the headwind from a rising dollar. If the dollar had been stable on the year, just gone sideways, our returns would have been double digit, but the returns were diminished by the dollar strength. But I think in 2023, they will be greatly augmented by the dollar weakness.
We've seen impressive numbers right across the board, regardless of what market outside of North America you look at. All right, I want to get your thoughts here on crypto markets, on this FTX mess that has occurred over the past week and continues to play out on a daily basis. I mean, say what you will about SBF at this point, but 115 years of a prison sentence says a lot about not only the industry, but the business itself.
What do you mean? He was sentenced to 115 years? How did he get sentenced? He hadn't even been extradited.
They're proposing. That's what he would be facing. But let's talk a little bit about, a lot of people have taken this as an opportunity to say, okay, Bitcoin's over here, and then crypto's over here. Should we be looking at these two things separately?
No, I mean, if you're going to say that a Bitcoin is not crypto, they're all the same. Whether Bitcoin will be the last refuge as all the 20,000 plus tokens come crashing down, maybe Bitcoin will crash more slowly than the rest, but it's all going down. I mean, it's all the same thing. There is no value. I've been saying this since the beginning. There's no value in Bitcoin. It's just worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. And why did people want to buy Bitcoin? Because they thought they would get rich, because they thought somebody else would pay more. Well, it's a greater fool theory. You eventually run out of fools. And it's clear that that's happened. I mean, the bubble has popped. Bitcoin has gone from almost 70,000 to now, 17,000-ish. But the only reason it went up to 70,000 was all the fraud, like the stuff going on at FTX and all these other companies that have already gone bankrupt. It was all leverage. It was all pump and dump. There was massive amount of not only borrowed money, but stolen money that was used to hype up these coins, to advertise crypto. So the whole thing was literally a house of cards. It's imploding. I feel bad for people who still don't understand, and they're just going to go down with this ship. They are going to hodl till the very end. I mean, they're going to hold their crypto until there is nothing left, and that includes Bitcoin. It is just going down. I don't know if it's going to hit zero in the next couple of years, but it's going to get pretty damn close. It's going to feel like zero.
Is there a reason then why that hasn't happened yet? Is there a reason then why we're still at 18,000, we're still at 17,000 for Bitcoin when all these companies are essentially zeros?
Yeah, look, I mean, people are.
Oh no, did we lose him? All right, we'll see, guys. We'll see if we can get Peter back here to wrap up.
I wanted.
Yeah, that was the answer I wanted too. I'll throw it back over to you guys now. We'll see if we can't reconnect.
That was the right question, just the wrong time.
I'm telling you, man, it's like once the question, it's like this. Okay, here we go. This is it. We just had a great interview. This is the one. Let's hear the answer to that question, and then it gets shut down. It's just like yesterday. YouTube didn't want us to be on at the end of the day because we kept having those issues and the market was flushing. But I hope we get Peter back. Obviously, I don't know what happened. It could have been an issue with Zoom there. I hope we're able to get him back. Until that happens, let's just go to the market. Brendan will let us know.
Oh, he's back.
Okay, no, he's back. He's back. Let's go right back to him.
I was never gone.
All right, we saw you freeze, so I wanted to make sure we gave you a chance to finish your thought there.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that, look, there are still people that think Bitcoin has value, and they're buying, and there are a lot of people that own it that don't want to sell it. They're holding on. I mean, they're holding it because they think the price is going to go back up, so they still have confidence. They're going to give up. People are going to sell. I mean, not everybody. As I said, some people will hold till the bitter end, but other people will sell either because they want to or because they have to. I mean, a lot of people that own Bitcoin and other cryptos are soon going to be unemployed if they're not unemployed already, and they're going to need money. to pay the bills. And if all they got is crypto, well, you can't buy groceries with your crypto or your Bitcoin. They want dollars, so you got to sell. Well, somebody's got to be there to buy. I don't know who's going to buy this stuff. I mean, there's no new money coming into crypto anymore. There's certainly no institutional money coming in. In fact, any institutional money that got in wants out. You can see that by the massive discount that the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust trades at. So there's no new money coming in. There's just the true believers who might want to buy more, but then you have a lot of people who aren't really true believers. They just got suckered in with all the hype. They're going to get out, but there's not enough people to take them out because we've run out of chain in this blockchain letter, or the pyramid is done, right? That's what this whole thing was. Everything, all pyramids, Ponzi's, chain letters, however you want to call it, Bitcoin and crypto have elements of all three, but that's what they are. I mean, there's no real investment there. There's no real asset there. There's no income. There's no real use case. They're all just, strings of numbers, tokens that people gamble on. People buy them and hope to sell them at a higher price. And, that only works until it doesn't, and then it implodes. And we are in the implosion stage right now, but we still have a long way to go.
For years, we've heard, wait for regulation, wait for regulation, wait for regulation. That'll open the floodgates. I mean, FTX, you can count them on, multiple hands now as far as these companies that have blown up. How much has that set that back?
Look, regulation is not a good thing for any industry. I mean, I wish there was a lot less regulation in the investment industry and the security industry. It's really done a lot of harm, all the regulation that we have. I mean, most industries would be better off with less regulation. I think the main reason that the crypto people were claiming they wanted regulation is because they thought that more regulation would sucker in more institutional money. And it was really part of the pump and dump. It doesn't make the system work better, but it may have created a situation where the whales that are trying to get rid of their crypto would have had bigger buyers to sell to if they thought they were protected by government regulation. It's almost like the crypto industry wanted like the government's good housekeeping seal of approval. Aha, you see, we're legitimate because now we're being regulated. They were looking to get that legitimacy out of the regulation. But the regulation is not good for the industry, nor was it needed for the industry. But the problem with the industry is there's nothing there. That's the biggest problem, that it's built on nothing. So it's going to collapse.
Peter Schiff, CEO and Chief Global Strategist for Euro Pacific Capital. We appreciate your time as always. Thanks again for doing this.
Sure thing. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm glad we're able to get Peter back. Well, you're live. You're always going to have some kinds of issues here and there. We're able to get the final thought on crypto, which I know a lot of people are going to be interested in. Now, obviously, you guys know we're a day trading show, and we try to stay in our lanes because that's where our expertise is going to lie. And obviously, there's going to be trading opportunities when it comes to something like cryptocurrencies. And what I would suggest, I know there was a lot of chatter and a lot of great questions in the chat, and we appreciate all of it. But if you're sort of interested in some of the higher end of what was being talked about there, it's not always a bad look to understand what money is, how it is created, from a fundamental standpoint, right? It's like if you actually get an understanding of what debt is and what money creation is, which in fact is just debt, then you'll get a better understanding of a lot of what Peter tries to talk about there, so you can get some different perspectives. But I did get stopped out of CVNA. You'll see me not in that anymore. I'm now in Microsoft again to the short side. But Bed Bath & Beyond is starting to squeeze up here. And it is just, as far as I know, it's just a squeeze. Bit of a break through $3, which I didn't get. And now it started breaking through 305, yesterday's high. So some momentum coming back into this name. But the market spiked, and Softy got back up to 250. And I swear I did get rid of some of these wicks on the chart. So Microsoft did get back up to 250. Spiked up there, hung out, bit of a consolidation. I grabbed a couple of shorts in the mid, and I'm going to try to get some out in front of 49, back 48.5. So salvo number 3 for me on the 250 Microsoft short. It's interesting that like the second Peter was on, one of the easiest shorting days in the market, and the market was making the rally, of course. But this has been a short day, obviously. So I'm just going back to the well here with Microsoft. Going to ring the register once we get, there we go. Going to ring the register in front of 249 there. See if we can't get back down towards some of these lows. 45 minutes to go. That's plenty of time for this market to still move. I did get stopped out of some other shorts, but Microsoft 250, that's the only level I've traded on this stock today. It's a short 250 when it broke, short 250 the second time it broke. When it comes back to VWAP, short in front of it again. I actually added, my first entry was above 50. You'll see my price is now 33 because I added when it started coming down at 33. So a little bit away from that 250 price on my second entry.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just looking at the futures market. I mean, that bounce I suspected was mostly short covering. And look at where we turned. I marked this level off for you guys earlier. This is the issue, the area where we could potentially have an issue. We walked this zone right here, walked right into it, obviously strong move. But now here we are coming off of that in a big way. And I'm starting to lean now that that short move or that short covering rally has kind of completed. If it keeps going down just a touch more, I think it's time to maybe open up some shorts here. I think this is the right spot to do it. But I don't want to get too close. Here's the issue that I have right now. I want the shorts, but I don't want to do it specifically. I don't want to be forced into taking it at these prices. Because if I look at the bottom, like in terms of risk profile, we're going to say 39.10 roughly is going to be the bottom end, right? So if 39.10 is the bottom, and I've got 39.50 as a stop, that's a 40-point range. 40 point, you split that into two, that will put you 20 points on either side. So for this risk to make sense, the trade has to be somewhere close to 30 after it gets underneath 25. So you're almost looking for a 25 break followed by a bounce to 30 just to get the risk in the right direction. And that's a tough situation, especially going into the final half hour, final 45 minutes of the day. So it might be a little tricky to catch the right trade with the right setups, but we are doing exactly what we need to do in the right spots, which is stall out right here inside of this 30 to 45 zone. And I think we're getting that possibility of a move back towards the lows here going into the end of the day. Keep in mind, we've got the rebalance tomorrow, so there should be some decent activity at least tomorrow. For today's case, though, oh man, this short is fairly tempting. Obviously, I'm looking at some other names too. Index aside, obviously Apple hasn't really made a move at all. I mean, at least from the chart that I'm seeing, Apple barely ticked up on that rally in the futures market. So this market did it on its own without Apple's help. All they did was just go right back on into that 137 area. So we barely got past that high that we put in around 135 in the morning. So here we are kind of working with that 137.50 area. This market hasn't fully completed its sell move yet, but at the same time, it does. We'll see how it goes out. We have imbalances coming out. Right? What's the imbalance going to look like on a market that's down 2.5 to 3.5%? So that's a potential big move. And crude, I think we didn't talk about crude much today. It wasn't doing a whole lot earlier today, and it kind of boxed it in. Oh, I don't have the box on this one. But it was essentially a top versus the bottom. It was 75 is what I put down, and then I put the top at 78, and then I said, you know what, we got to range trade this somewhere between these levels. And I kind of just stopped. No, as soon as I know a stock, or in this case a futures contract, is in a range, I just don't get involved. I mean, like, you can play the range, sure, but I just choose not to get involved. I mean, yeah, you could have argued for the short here around 8 o'clock in the morning, and then maybe a long here around 11:30 in the morning. But again, I choose to stay away from ranges as much as I possibly can. You're trying to catch some breakouts. Like the range breakout, I'm all for that trade. Tomorrow, possibility that we get one of those trades going north of 78 or even below 75, sure. But for today, I think staying away from these ranges is probably the smarter idea because there's so many opportunities. Think about it. I'm looking at my watch list here, and this is mostly all heavy tech names anyways.
Pull it over if you can.
Yeah, this is my watch list, right? The ones that are highlighted are the alerts that I've gone off that I haven't checked off just yet. In this entire list, there's two names that are positive. Tesla, up 0.5%, and then Lee Automotive. I don't even know why Lee is still there. But Lee Automotive is still positive on the day, even though it's down 3.75% since the open, but it's still 0.42 up on the day. That's it. And then you go through this list, and most of them are 2, 3, 4%. Then we've got Netflix down almost 9%. Roku's down 6.7. So this is not exactly the day I'd be looking for those long breakouts, even if it's a consolidation breakout. But at the same time, it should be an interesting one to set up the next batch of trades potentially for tomorrow. And hey, I'm here tomorrow, you're here tomorrow. Sean's off on probably the most active, I would think, day of the month. Definitely the quarter, for sure.
Well, in a normal sense, yes, it is. But remember, like given what CPI and given Fed, we had CPI back to back with the rate hike, right? So a rate decision, which doesn't usually occur. So when we had that kind of an environment, I kind of feel like tomorrow might not be a bigger move. You never know. Like it is for bouncing. But I did want to acknowledge this because True Trading Group was handing out them memberships again. So I want to thank the True Trading Group for giving out the free memberships. 20, 50, and 50. It looks like 120. And there are a few super chats. I wanted to acknowledge those Hayes Records. Thank you for the super chat. We got a couple of other ones while Peter was on. I probably have to scroll way too far back to see them, but we always thank our community for being so fantastic. It was cool to see the discussion going on in the chat there. Everyone definitely has their opinions. That's what it's all about. Like I don't care it doesn't matter what you think. If you can articulate an opinion, then we can learn from you. And that's the end of the story. And I'll be the first to tell you, I went through some phases of which I might still be in a few of them. We try not to talk politics here, but I want to get to a couple of trades. One, I guess I'm not reloading Microsoft. That just broke 249. But I have a trailing stop on this Delta. Like, remember Delta from this morning? And I said this thing was bouncing off the 50 period and $33 here. So I just wanted to grab that long. While I was scalping it off VWAP, then I decided to go into hold mode. It could not break this top of the channel from, I guess that'd be Tuesday when it capitulated. That's 33.40. So if it can't break that channel again, once it goes underneath 33, I think 35 or 34 is my stop, I'll trail out of this 33 long. I was looking for it to make another leg up, but the market just made its move. And if it's not going to continue this one, then even Delta has to come out. And I'll just hang on to my Microsoft. So about 40 minutes to go here, guys. There's a lot of Mullen being talked about. So I have not looked at Mullen since the morning. I'll bite. Yeah, I haven't. Look, I traded Mullen after the halt. So I'll show you the 3-minute. So Mullen halted this morning on that news of the orders that they had, and then they jumped into it sort of, the long in front of 33, talked about it turning at 30. I tried the reload in front of 33. That didn't work, and I haven't done anything with this thing since. Like I'm more interested in it being back above 33 so I can grab a momentum 34 break. So seeing it off 30 cents here doesn't necessarily excite me. I might be back at this tomorrow at the same price as before, but I don't see anything too crazy. I'm much more interested for now, and I could be wrong about this. I'm wrong a lot. It happens. But I just look at Bed Bath & Beyond in the midst of a breakout. So this is an ongoing move, and now consolidating above that break. So I think this is a little more present. Like I said, I could be wrong, but it's consolidating right at the high from yesterday. So I'd like to be able to grab this in front of $3, risk about 4 or 5 cents. If it breaks the high of the day, there's room to the upside. It's about the squeeze potential here. Not saying anything positive fundamentally about Bed Bath & Beyond, but just a pure setup on a breakout.
All right, I just quickly looked at some stuff regarding rebalances. From what I understand, from what I've seen, roughly we should be doing $30 billion of trade in the S&P 500. Now, the overall should be 36.6 total across the S&P 1500, which, I think this kind of alludes to your point that it's actually much smaller. Maybe it's not as big as it used to be. Apparently, it's 48% smaller than September's imbalance.
Yeah,
rebalance. So I guess not as big.
It
but
might
still,
not be crazier tomorrow than.
But it's still a rebalance, so that definitely means that we still have to pay attention to it. That also
there's going to be individual names.
Individual names will have a decent rebalance for sure. But apparently, we've got one addition. It's a migration going from the mid to the 500 and then 2 deletions. So. Should be some interesting names sprinkled out through there, but definitely not as big as it was in September, somewhat smaller for the review, but still should provide a decent amount of volatility and action going into what would be, I would think, a quieter week going into holidays. We'll see, but at the same time, post-rebalance before a holiday week tends to be quieter, I would think. I mean, I'm not here for their week, so I'm in New York. Oh, I don't know if you know that.
You go to New York?
I'm going to New York. I'm going to New York on Saturday. And
Nice.
I'll be back on Thursday because Sean's off on Friday.
You gonna see a show?
Yeah, we're actually, my wife wanted to go see Chicago.
Yeah, man.
So we're seeing Chicago.
I'm a bit I'm a nerd, but I'm a big theater. Like I love musicals. I actually like the opera. I'm a Rent head. I think Rent is absolutely legendary. But yeah, you got to go see. You're in New York, man. Like, what's the point? You got to go see a show. That's what's all about. I'm still waiting on. I don't know where you're gonna do these, Lucas, but I'm still waiting on this pistol squat. So when the opportunity arises, I want a camera. I want you guys to see him fail at it because I don't think he can do one. And if he does one, I'll eat crow. But I wanted to talk SoFi for a quick second. I did just get into Bed Bath & Beyond in front of $3. Relatively tight stop that I'll have there. But SoFi's starting to run. SoFi just went green on the day. So I don't really know exactly why it's moving. Maybe there's just a relief rally in a lot of places as Bed Bath & Beyond goes. It comes back down and something else starts running. But this is starting to accelerate on SoFi. So my guess is there is something legitimate happening here. I haven't really seen anything on the wire. I'm just double checking on Twitter, on my tweet deck for myself, which is having troubles loading. My internet is killing me for some reason. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on SoFi, but this is getting parabolic. If it gets into that, okay, I stopped out the last time I shorted in front of 480. So this time, I'll wait for it to get to 480 instead of shorting 470s and giving it to 480. It's a $5 stock. I can risk less than 10 cents on the trade. But I'm usually thinking fade when I see a move like that. This is crazy, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on over here in SoFi. But a big parabolic move happening in SoFi. I want to make sure you guys saw it just went green.
Yep, individual names, pretty much at this point, this late in the day, with about 25 minutes left before imbalances, individual names are the ones moving, right? Index is somewhat quieted after coming off that area where we kind of were, that's the wrong one, after coming off that area where we caught a sell move into that 40 zone. It's gone somewhat quiet around these mid-20s, mid to high 20s, so we really can't get a whole lot there. Apple was barely moving, as I showed you guys earlier, went on the move up into the 40s. Apple barely moved back up, so here we are kind of just waiting. At this point, I think it's going to come down to imbalances and see what that looks like as we kind of go in. What are we ready for, Brendan?
Look to your right, man. Okay,
look. Okay.
So if you don't know what a pistol squat is, it means you're squatting on a single leg, but I want to see you all the way to the ground, Lucas. That's the key. I want you going all the way down. Let's see.
Okay, hold on. Before you do it, in the chat, can you guys put whether he's going to be able to complete his pistol squat or not?
No chance. No chance.
You said you could, though.
No chance. Just
so
go and fail.
You're taking advice from Fahad on how to talk trash and not follow up with it? Okay, at least he admits it.
Let's see it. Let's see it.
Okay, let's see it.
No. Get off the damn.
Don't break your knee. Neil's going to come show you now.
This is what it's supposed to look like. And I'm in boots right now. But you're supposed to go all the way down, stall at the bottom like this, and then go. That's a pistol squat, bro. I'm just saying.
Go sit
down.
And
I'm a 40-year-old man, by the way.
Fahad.
I'm a 40-year-old man. You guys know I'm an old man.
No,
he's young.
No, listen. He went to the school of Fahad, and this is what ends up happening. So just let it be.
That was a little bit. That was a little better. No. That was a little better. I'm actually, because look, he's never practiced it before, but there's a saying. I don't know if Sharif is here, but the way I always look at like working, a lot of people just want to throw a lot of weight around and that kind of nonsense. Like if you can't do a pistol squat, then what's the point of like why are you loading a bunch of weights to squat and show off what you can do? Because the point of working out is to be healthy, have mobility, do things. I mean, like aesthetics fine. Like everyone's like, if you want to be a bodybuilder, be a bodybuilder. But most people just want to be fit and healthy. So why sit around throwing heavy squats if you can't do basics? Like if you can't do a push-up, just do push-ups, man.
You know what it
like
is,
it's not
though?
like to me, it's not about pride or looking good or anything.
But because there's a difference between functional strength and just looking big. That's
True.
what it is. Not everybody wants the functional strength of it.
Which is where
my whole thing is what's good. What good is strength if you can't use it, right? If you don't know how to use it.
And if you have, I'll tell you this right now, if you have kids, the ability to move around and be nimble, it is so important. Like the number of times it's like, okay, so I'll be holding my daughter and I'm climbing the stairs and I'm holding her, and then she just decides for whatever reason I want to, like, we're going this way. Like she'll jump and she'll jump in my arms when she was little, and I'm all of a sudden like I'm trying not to fall down the stairs. I'm trying not to drop her, and it's like if I don't have hip mobility, if I have bad knees, I do have a bad back. Like I'm done, she's done, we're all in a bunch of trouble. My Microsoft's gonna blow out this 250 area because what are the odds that all of a sudden, and I'm looking at SoFi because I missed a turn, but what are the odds Peter Schiff comes on here and then all of the shorts that I was loving and every level that was working all go kaput at the exact same time? And of course, this time I don't short the 70s, right? I short 70s. I got greedy here, didn't take 10 cents, and then stop out at the 80s. The first time SoFi does this, so I say I'm going to wait for it to get to 80. I'm not going to short it at 75, and then look at it. It goes to 75 and is gone. So I'm now out of Microsoft and did not short SoFi. So all I'm left with is this Bed Bath & Beyond because I did trail out of Delta there, guys. So I finally rang the register, and then lo and behold, I trail out of Delta, and Delta's going back to the upside. So I can't complain because it's been a good day, but it was mostly this morning. This afternoon, Bed Bath & Beyond better moon. Otherwise, it's going to be a frustrating end of the day here. But it was a great interview, I have to admit that. And I see people are still talking about Mullen. It's really not doing a heck of a lot just yet. Yeah, this needs to break out. I'm not really seeing anything there. The story is the market rebound that we're seeing and whether it'll be able to follow through. I'm just going back to Tesla. I 100% expected when I pulled up Tesla just now, with the market bouncing back here, that this would at least be past VWAP.
Nope.
You can't. So I know I did trade off this level, and I got one little scalp trade and tried to reload it, got stopped out. You needed to break away from this. Either we break down and you can short it, or we break up and you can try some longs breaking out of the range. But that's ridiculous, Tesla going absolutely sideways right now.
I mean, to be fair, this is a good thing, though. The reason I say this is because this opens the door for another trade for tomorrow. Because if it consolidates and then let's just say it sticks with the consolidation, opens up a nice range that we can play with, and then you come to tomorrow and it's breaking that range, how great is that? Like, the last thing you want to do is not be able to catch a trade that's running, right? That's what happened on Netflix earlier today when it broke 300. That wasn't a consolidation breakout. That was just a straight up break of a daily level, which sometimes can get tricky. But in this case, if Netflix wants to make an initial rally and then go sideways, sure, why not? You either break down through that 156 and stay and then open up the short to 150, or you break through 160 to the upside, stay, and then we potentially look at a nice little long, maybe a counter trend long, just to get us towards here. Maybe it really would have to get through 164 to clear out, but at the same time, potentially opens a long, a dangerous one at that, but still potentially opens up a long. So I would definitely keep an eye on Tesla. I think the sideways action is a good thing. You know Tesla's not going to stay sideways for long. It's going to make a move, but when it does go sideways, it at least allows you to develop some levels to work with. And I think all we do at this point is just figure out what the levels are and then make trades based on those levels. So at the same time, I would just kind of just wait it out. Just wait it out at this point. Tesla's probably not going to be on the radar for today. Keep in mind, though, with this type of move, it's possible that we get imbalances coming out in a certain way as well. I mean, imbalance could be fairly big on Tesla. And what on some of these tech names,
I'm chuckling at myself right now.
What's that?
Oh, so like I have this rule about like wick tops. Right? If I like a level and it wicks me out, then I sort of jump back in when it rejects it. So I'm right back into Microsoft at 49.80. The difference being, I'm not going to have a hard 250 stop. It got to like 250.20. I'll give it to that level. And I can actually clean up these levels on the chart. Like I can go in here and edit them out. But every time I edit them out, just to clean up the chart, they just kind of jump right back in. They're these dark pool prints that keep coming out of nowhere. And Luca made a really good point about these. If you see these dark pool wicks, we're going to chart them because they actually come off the tape. The way that you know that they're fake, besides it being obvious, is there's no way this stock moves $8 or in this case $10 or whatever it is on those wicks. If that was real, you'd see a volume spike. And the example I'll go to is like when Netflix, the reason I knew something had happened, I wasn't watching Netflix when it made this move, but the reason I knew something had happened is look at the corresponding volume spike on that wick. So regardless of how big the body of the candle is, I know that when it does that print up and I see the volume at just triple or quadruple over the last I guess like 30 minutes worth of candles, I know that something actually happened. A big tech stock or a big cap stock simply will not make a move like that without any volume. And if it did, well, let's just say if it did move that much without volume, we probably have bigger fish to fry because something crazy is happening, which, you know, at that point, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So just want to get back to a couple of other names here. I think we've talked a little bit about, I suppose, Apple and how weak it is. Oh, this Apple chart's going to have a wick as well. But Apple is bouncing a little bit here. But the reason you're not following through or breaking out some of these channels is if Apple can't get through, this is hard to see. This is 137.25. That's it at 1:30. That's a top at 1:30. That's a top at 3 o'clock. That's the top right now. It's hard to imagine that we're going to break this channel in the future, which I'm sure Arun has shown you a million times, if Apple can't go anyways. That's part of the reason I keep going back to the well on Microsoft, although all that's going to happen is this 250.20 is going to break, and then I'll be 0 for 2 shorting this 250 level in the afternoon. This market does seem to want to go. Bed Bath & Beyond still flat. I'm long at 03 half. It's at 03 by 04. Nothing going on there. And Netflix just can't seem to get back to that 291 that I was trying to short in front of 291.50. So I'm being patient about where I would like to have a curl short on Netflix. It just hasn't got to my price yet.
Yeah, nice little rally here. I guess they are kind of closing up some positions here. And I'm trying to figure out where is this rally coming from, because it's not coming from Apple, and Apple's a top weight. So let's see if it's coming from Microsoft, because we do need a lot of index names to get involved. Yeah, Microsoft's got some good movement here from 249 and change back to 250. That's going to provide some help. What else do I got? Amazon. Amazon, are you helping this little rally? Nope, it's not from Amazon. Okay, what's next on the list? NVIDIA. NVIDIA has a rough day, or had a rough day. Yep, NVIDIA. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be NVIDIA and, which was it, Amazon? No, it wasn't Amazon, Microsoft. Amazon, yeah, so NVIDIA and Microsoft are going to be helping lead this rally to the upside, because we know Tesla's not doing anything. We know Amazon's not doing anything. We know Apple's not doing anything right now. So we are rallying up a little bit here. Short covering rally, it seems like, is having a second leg.
Meta here.
Second leg to the upside. Where's Meta? Let's take a quick look.
I was about to say we might want to look at Meta as I was looking at Roblox, but it's not making a move. There was just another.
It is breaking its trend, but at the same time, this is kind of late in the day.
It was just more about the TikTok thing coming out there, so I thought maybe that could have moved it. Like, obviously they were talking about banning TikTok in the U.S. Here's Lee McCarthy just said they're ready to pass that bill, banning it on government devices. So it's just like another thing against them. And usually you get a little bit of a move, although you're not really seeing much of it here on Meta. This probably needs to get through 116 for it to get some real juice there, guys. And we'll see what happens. Like, maybe it does make that break. It's Microsoft and Netflix that I'm going to be concerned with, at least in the short term here, unless I see something crazy happening. Bed Bath & Beyond, I'm going to say it and then that'll make it true, but I'd be absolutely shocked if this just ends up barcoding on me after making this consolidation. Poetic justice would be I disregard Mullen saying I don't really see anything happening, get in the consolidation of Bed Bath & Beyond, it doesn't move, and then Mullen goes for a moonshot, then I'd be laughing at myself, because then I could be completely wrong about those two stocks. But you've got to go over to something that's moving. I know that SMMT that you're talking about there, Jerry Hickey in the chat, that was a mover earlier. I haven't really talked about that small cap, really low float runner, whatever it was, that ICVX. I want to check on that in a second. So Summit's at the high of the day, but what you'll see is a distinct lack of volume through the top. Like, if it's a channel, okay, nice channel break, trying to break a channel here at 3:30 going into the end of the session, I'd like to see a little more volume into it. And just, I'm zooming out because I did trade this when it was at $4 to the short side with some success twice. And then I always look at these and why was I short at 4, scalping it to 385, presumably holding for the rest of the move, and then had a break-even stop instead of giving it to like 405 or 410. I always ask myself, why am I doing something like that? Don't anchor yourself to round numbers. It's a stupid thing to do, and clearly I did it back over there on a couple of days ago. But I like reviewing my trades over and over again, but sometimes the small caps, I'll be like a one and done. This gets to $4. I think it's a short. That's where it was before. That's a long way of saying it. Microsoft, if it works this time, fantastic, but you saw what happened the last time before. And yes, I know I got out of my Roblox short and then only to see it start to come back into the downside. I just bid Microsoft at 50 and it bounces 10 cents away from me. So I'll bid at 52 and take some out there. So we're going to ring the register on some Microsoft as that starts to come back in. If I get wick topped, generally speaking, it's going to be a re-entry for me. And what a wick top is it's a rejection of a price level. So if it's a wick top, it's a rejection of a resistance, meaning it breaks the resistance, runs a few stops there, immediately slams back down, creating a thin body candle with a big wick at the top, and that'll be that quick price action up and then back down for that next close. A lot of times that can be bearish. It doesn't mean you short it every single time you see it, but if I already like the short on the stock, and I already like the short off that level, and it wicks, then I'm entering the trade, pretty much.
All right, just going through this here real quick. Okay, futures market coming off a little bit here. And this is kind of, I don't want to say evident, but this is kind of what happens when you don't get help from some of the big names in a rally, right? If you don't get some of the big names helping out in the rally, when it all dies down, let's just say it's carried by some of the smaller names, when it dies down, these big names are still putting weight on the market. So I went all the way up to like 37, 38, instantly fell 10 points as we come back down. And as I see that too, I see Apple starting to tick down to the downside. Again, underneath 137 and change, not in a big way, but it's ticking down to the downside here. And so is NVIDIA starting to turn off the 171. So we are starting to get some weight going into the end of the day. Not much, but at the same time, it's been struggling here around the 30s on the future side of things. And I think this close with the imbalances coming out in about 10 minutes,
that's right.
It should be coming fairly soon. I think it'll be an interesting close, I think, with all this activity, all this market's done on the day. Us sitting at not too far away from 3,900. I mean, should be an exciting one, at least.
You know what you should
the
trade?
Close. What's up?
So this is going to be, excuse me, it'll be very random, by the way. But natural gas, I know you trade oil futures and you trade.
I've actually looked at that in the last bit.
So I'm just like, the argument for not trading it, I'm not a futures trader, so I don't trade it because I'm not a futures trader. But the argument for not looking at natural gas, given the type of volatility that it has, like I was just looking at this chart because I was like, what is up on the day? But look at the range on nat gas just today. I mean, this is 635. There's your gap up. There's your top at 7 to 710. Double bottom, break out of that long. Look at the break. It breaks out 650, retraces 650, makes the run back into 7. From a technical standpoint, like that's as good as it gets. I mean, like I don't trade. I don't know if you guys, anybody in the chat trade natural gas here, because
some people do.
Is it always like this? Because
No,
this chart doesn't.
In the last little bit.
This chart looks pretty solid.
Here's the thing with nat gas, and I think you got to understand the game that you're playing, at least the rules of the game you're playing. Nat gas, although you see it in pennies, each penny is subdivided, so it actually moves in thousands. So each tick is $10, each tick being 1,000. So you get 10 ticks per penny, so $100 per contract. And if you have a 50-cent move, multiply that by 10, and that's how many ticks have moved. So 500 ticks times $10 a piece
So that's
per
why the
contract.
liquidity
So
is
the
like
leverage
this.
is nuts on that.
That's why liquidity looks like this.
That's why
so
liquidity looks like
put up
that.
my level 2, guys. So what everything Arun just said, by the way, mic drop. That's why liquidity looks like this, and this is the other end. This is the other end of the coin.
You could trade UNG though if you really want to participate.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like you guys, a lot of people have been saying, look at UNG, look at Boyle. I think you're absolutely right about that, because if you can't scale a strategy, if you can't manage risk from a reasonable standpoint, or if there isn't enough liquidity to express the trades that you want to, then you might. It's not worth it even building a strategy. Like you don't develop a strategy that you can't scale, right? And you don't trade an instrument that you'll never be able to move up on. Generally speaking, as a trader, it doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense. So I guess you answered that question there. UNG, Boyle, definitely some opportunities. There's a reason why I like every now and then I just like playing some, not devil's advocate, but I was on my quote board, saw the move, pulled up the chart, was like, wow, that's a pretty good looking technical trade. And at some point I should just start pulling up Boyle. I've traded like Tellurian before every now and then. When that gets going is a bit of an equity play, but trading something a little bit more pure is how you want to express the move. So now we're below 249 on Microsoft as the market is coming back in here. We're very close to imbalances coming out, so this is where I'm thinking trail. Once we're beneath this last salvo, this is like 248.70, which we just broke now, I'm thinking trail to 249, let it ride to the end of the day. I will kick myself over a couple of the shorts that I had on. That's Roblox. somebody, hopefully someone's still short 28 on Roblox. I'm not. That sucks. But that's coming back into the downside. Netflix never really got there for me. So maybe a little bit too patient, waiting for that absolute top up here in Netflix. That's starting to come in. So Softy's going to work. That's been the best level for me all day long because I've been able to go back to the well at 250 on Microsoft over and over again, but missed my shot to get back into Netflix. And my goodness, I just keep looking back over, like, is Tesla moving? Not really. For all of the activity that we had in Tesla the last couple of days, you know, to sort of see it just sort of hanging right around here in a dollar range is a bit disappointing, but the market itself hasn't been. I mean, you get dollar moves everywhere else except for Tesla this afternoon.
Yeah, it's the market's making a move. I mean, it's coming back down. You see NVIDIA coming back through that 170 now. NVIDIA is stalling out. Somebody called for that double top there that ended up breaking through 170. Now they got to 171 and are coming back into that double top, previous double top high around 169.5 and change. You know that if we end up taking that out, we're probably going to break down and see potentially 168. Or is that going to happen today? Nah. I mean, it's a little late, but I guess it all comes down to imbalances and how they all come out. But it does look like there's some pressure on the market, at least for now, as it approaches those 20s once again. We've had some support at 20, right? We've had some support, meaning we've attempted 20 once, and then we've got underneath, and then attempted to bounce back above 20, couldn't get anything, and now here we are taking another shot at 20 from above. We'll see how this market handles 20 as a whole, but at the moment, it does look like they want to get some negative pressure here. But 20 holding up well for the time being. Again, Apple's starting to roll. Apple's got new lows on the day, it looks like. Yeah, Apple's previous low was 19. Now we just put in a, oh no, we didn't. By a penny, we did not put in a new low. We were at 20 versus the 19 as being the previous low. But it does look like a lot of stocks are heading towards the low. A lot of the stocks that matter, I guess, right? Microsoft is going to be the index name that we need to deal with. And Microsoft is catching a nice little bid. You know what I just after canceled? Coming off a little bit? Yeah, what's up?
I just canceled my Krispy Kreme short offer to go short on a break. I never got a fill on this when it was. No, donut. Yeah, I was just cleaning up my orders. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I'm still offering Krispy Kreme for when I didn't get that short. And that reminded me of something. Well, I just got trailed out of Microsoft, but imbalances are coming out, so I don't really mind that. We'll go ahead and ring the register. It's about $1.50, $1.30 on that last Microsoft trade. We'll take it. It's 346, but if there's one regret today, if you thought Netflix had a bad day, right? Novavax had an offering, and it's not very often that I see a follow through like this when there is an offering. And we were both talking about $15 on Novavax. Sometimes you have to be willing to just short a bottom when the trend is there and the stock is that weak. Because Novavax just hit $11. And it's leaving me speechless. There was a 12 break, and I missed it too, but there was a 12 break over there on Novavax when we could have had it. Could you have liquidity on it when it's SSR, short sell restricted? Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but either way, there was that chance. I see Apple making moves. A lot of things are going down right now. I just got out of Microsoft, but that had as much to do with the time of day, it being about 350. I always have a trailing stop. I'll get out at $3 if that breaks on Bed Bath & Beyond. I feel like it's going to. But any new trade I take on is going to be on the other side of 350. I don't like getting into position right before the imbalances drop, and they're coming in a couple of minutes. Yeah,
and since they're showing up very soon, let's take a quick look at what we refer to as imbalances. It's going to be the imbalance stock, guys. I don't know why that sounded a little Italian for a second there, but anyways, it's going to be the Italian. You're just channeling your inner. Basically, you sit in the chair. It's John's chair. The Italian seeps up. It's going to be the Italian. No.
Where do you see my Christmas shirt?
Anyone. That's what's that? Wait until what?
My Christmas sweater.
Oh, when are you guys doing that, by the way?
Well, I mean, usually we do our. So I don't know if you watched us last year. We usually do like a Christmas sweater theme. I figure we'll do it next Friday because that's the last day before Christmas. I suppose that's when we're going to do it. So if you're filling in for Sean next Friday, you better have an ugly Christmas sweater. One. I will have one. I know Lucas is going to have one. Fahad, maybe he'll have one or not. Everyone needs to have one. Sweater. Brendan, I don't know if you're going to have an ugly Christmas sweater, but I bought one specially for you guys. So
never mind, you didn't hear it.
He didn't hear us.
I take it back.
And then take pictures. If you guys wear one on Friday too, take a picture and send it in. I love them. I think they're hilarious. You got to have fun in the holidays, man. You have to.
Yeah, I don't have one. So we'll figure it out. I might just wear this and I don't know.
You want me to just bring you one?
Hold the red
Not
pen.
that anything I own is going to fit
Hold the
you,
red
but
We'll see.
that's
we'll
for
see.
damn sure.
We'll see how this
Because
all
I
turns
own
out.
something that fits this guy, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Okay, imbalances coming out in about a minute. Let's go through this fairly quickly. Let's go to my screen, guys. Imbalance essentially look like this. For our system, it looks like this. Imbalance locator. At 3 o'clock, 3:50, the exchanges send out the data saying this many shares need to be bought at the final execution price or the final trading price, right? The official close. So we get that data at 3:50. Everyone who sends it in order that tags it as an unclosed gets kind of grouped in together, and then we get that data piled together, compiled, and then put here. How does that matter, and why does that matter? At 3:50, when the stocks have large imbalances relative to their daily volumes and whether their current book can handle that or not, it might put some pressure on the name, right? So at 3:50 it comes out, and then at 3:55 you get data from the floor brokers as well included, so the clients that they represent. So if they now want to participate in the imbalances as well, we get that update at 3:55. So you get one number at 3:50, and then you get an updated number at 3:55. And if the imbalances are still large after 3:55, then you're going to start to see some names get some pressure on them. Now today, we're not expecting a whole lot as these imbalances come out, but at the same time, tomorrow's a rebalance, so I'm sure you guys will see it tomorrow. What do we got here? No, NBC.
Mullen, Apple's a buy.
Yeah, Apple's a buy, Mullen's a buy, Apple's 1.4, Visa's a buy, mostly buy side it looks like. NBC, I don't even know what this is. Let's get rid of some of these. Oh no, it's fine. Mullen's a buy, NBC 2.5 million shares. Why is NBC, what is NBC? I don't even know what NBC is. What is it?
It's like a small cap.
Master brand. It's probably maybe a deletion, no?
No, there could
This
be an
is-
index action on it.
There's
but
probably index action.
I think
that doesn't
the
look
real
like it.
story is going to be Apple there. Because
Yeah.
Apple was about to break 136. I still have some crazy weeks. Apple was about to break 136 just now, and a lot of people were talking about how weak that was, but it just bounced. Imbalances dropped at 350, and this is the reason like I got out of my Microsoft short and was looking for something. Now I was favoring the downside. If Apple came a sell, I was going to take a 136 break. If Microsoft came a sell, I would want to re-enter that trade. But when I see this bit of a bounce, and the overall imbalance is 300 million to buy. So slightly buy side. I'm not going to short Apple at the low against the imbalance there. It bounces off 5% as well. So you got to have some reasons to get in and out of trades. I go back over to Softy, and it's bouncing. So this is not... I didn't know it was going to bounce here. What I did know is at 350, usually there's like an inflection point in some of these moves where you're gonna either off a consolidation, you're gonna break lower, in which case you can hang on to it just in case it flushes lower. But I'm always gonna have a trailing stop because you don't want to be in the money $1.50 or whatever it happens to be and give it all back because at 350 a buy imbalance came out. I don't know which way the imbalances are coming out. I don't think I'm pretty sure if every single day you guys threw out a random stock and said, Neil, which direction is this imbalance going to go? I bet you at best I'd be 50.5% correct. Maybe 51 at best. You know, like you're not going to be able to guess that most times. So I generally say just have a trailing stop. If you're in the money, let it ride, but have an out so you don't give it all back and then try to react after the fact. Because I was looking short, I'm not long Apple or Softy here, but just a bit of a tidbit for you. And you can choose to not trade around these numbers as well. You know, it's not like you have to sit there and say, oh, something's going to happen at 350. I'm just going to punch into something. No, you don't have to do that at all.
Yeah, this market hasn't really moved off. I mean, even Apple with the buy-side imbalance, I don't know if that buy-side imbalance is going to stick around, but even with the buy-side imbalance, it hasn't really moved a whole lot right now to the upside here on Apple. Futures market popped a couple points, took a while, but did end up moving to the upside a little bit after those imbalances came out. But keep in mind, this is only 352, right? We still got to get that update at 355, and I think that's going to be the big one here, because at this point, 350 brings one number and 355 brings another number, and usually if they're on the same side, then the market will aggressively go, but if they come out in different directions, you might end up getting this kind of chop here, which is, oh, it's a buy-side imbalance in one direction, and then when you include the floor interest, maybe it's not a buy-side, maybe it's a sell, right? And that's kind of how the game is played at this point. So we'll wait for 355. We'll see if these imbalances are going to stick around. I mean, NBC, I couldn't find anything on it, but given the stock price, given how it moves, there probably is some sort of index action here. I'm also going to look at the paired volume as well, right? I keep saying paired value, but it's paired volume. When you add the two together, the size of the imbalance and the paired volume, that's actually what the entire imbalance was at one point before they offset it, so it got paired. That goes into the paired volume category, and then what's left is going to be on the size category here. So Apple is 1.4 plus 8.7, so a decent size imbalance to the upside here, just north of 10 million shares for the imbalance, but at the same time, we'll see what the floor interest is in Apple. It couldn't completely disappear. It's a buy-side imbalance of 1.4 right now. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to hold well and rally or something like that after 355. It's entirely possible that if this Apple imbalance sticks around after 355, we could get a decent rally in Apple.
You shouldn't educate people. Yeah, I'll tell you why you can't educate people. We had Peter Schiff on today, give a fantastic interview. True Trading Group dropped 120 free memberships. Lucas almost did a pistol squat. It was close. I actually think he did really well. All jokes aside, his second attempt was pretty good. We can't even hit 1,000 likes. And by the way, the other thing too is the job that I think everyone agrees with this. Sharif and Luca have been having a fantastic week. I thought they did a great job again today, especially regarding ICVX, which is a crazy stock. Where do you get to learn how to trade something like that? ICVX, I'll pull it up for you. This thing was absolutely nuts. But what I'm getting at is take a couple seconds, hit the like, hit the sub. That's all we ask for. It's a free show. We're out here. You saw me get run over and jump back over on Microsoft. You saw me get my ass handed to me on Moderna to get it back today, thankfully. But this stock, just this alone, like I was listening in just like everybody else was. I had a couple of trades on ICVX on the way back in. But I remember Luca talking about the consolidation long. Look at this opportunity. The stock had gone $8 to 15. He's like, wait for it. There's your 14 break. $2.50 up the top. Like that's the kind of move. Like this is a difficult stock to trade. I don't trade these very often. Sometimes I'm looking short, to be honest with you. But that's the kind of thing that we're trying to talk about here. What are active traders looking for? What do we see? What do we do? Why do we do it? Right or wrong? For better or for worse? For richer and for poorer? Hopefully richer all the time. We're here for you guys every single day. You get a chance to have Arun here again tomorrow to talk some futures. But just take a couple of seconds in there. And as far as I'm concerned, I didn't give my official tip of the cap, but I am tipping my cap to you, Lucas. You didn't actually do one, but there is no chance I thought you could have come that close, just given the fact you never done them before. They're not easy to do, pistol squats.
You also need to have the flexibility to do it too. On top of the strength, you also need the flexibility.
When I was running track in university, like I could squat a lot back then. I could not do a single pistol squat. My mobility was crap, and that's the reason I probably have had some back issues and all that kind of other stuff because my mobility sucks. So I worked on it because I'm sitting down all day. By the way, you guys are sitting down all day. You get up every now and then, stretch out. You don't want to have lower back problems. You don't want to be a 40 or 50-year-old person that can't play with the kids, eventually play with the grandkids, man. I'm telling you, it's always going to be trouble. And speaking of trouble, this market, if we had sustained this move, this is sort of the problem. If we had sustained this move, and come to my chart, guys. If we had sustained this move and broken 11.5 in the NASDAQ, I would have felt a heck of a lot better about a chance at a rally tomorrow. But the fact that this what looked like a good rally got faded, Apple couldn't hold on, Microsoft couldn't hold on to those gains, everything else is gravitating back down. We could be closing on the lows, which is never a good sign coming into tomorrow, but it's a good thing we're traders and we can take advantage of either direction. But overall, that's not a great sign for the market.
All right, apparently you got a wrap, Neil. Or should we leave that for tomorrow?
It's a Friday thing, man.
Okay.
I got something it's a Friday thing. I have something for tomorrow.
Oh, there you go. Okay, regarding imbalances, we haven't shown them to you since they came out, but I mean, there really isn't anything there. Apple's gone, and that's what's left here. TRQ on the sell side. They're mostly sells, but they're fairly small. PLTR, TRQ, now NBC. Snapchat at 1.2. I mean, like, if these aren't like 3, 4, 5 million shares on like something like Snapchat, it's not going to make a difference because why? Snapchat looks like that. I mean, actually, 3 million is not going to be enough on Snapchat. You're going to need something much larger. I didn't realize Snapchat's book looked like this.
This is so frustrating.
Yeah, it's not going to be much.
No, like, remember, like, I was just talking about that whole TikTok ban thing and Meta wasn't moving? Now Meta actually did move. And Meta just broke out now going into the end of the day. It's too late in the day. I'm not taking a trade at 355, 356, 357 a lot of times and not initiating. But Meta finally did make a bit of a break. There is more talk about TikTok and banning and all that kind of good stuff. With 90 seconds to go, thank you guys. I don't know what else there is to look at.
I just thought of
but I
something.
just saw this from, and I can't pronounce the name, so I apologize in advance. Someone said you better get good chairs to sit in. We're sitting all day long. Herman Miller's, write it off as a business expense. No word of a lie. We have like on the other side of the back office, a bunch of Herman Miller chairs. There's some Herman Millers on the floor. Quite frankly, I sat in it, didn't like it. The chairs we're sitting in, Sean Brennan and I went into like Staples or wherever it was, and we sat in a bunch of chairs and found something that was comfortable for us, knowing we'd be sitting all day doing the show. So we did take the care. But when we got the Herman Millers, I was like, it wasn't comfortable for me.
It's a different feel, right? I mean,
I'm not sitting in a multi-$1,000 chair if it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not going to wear a $500 shoe if it's not comfortable.
Yep.
That's complete and utter nonsense.
Well, before we go to the end of the day, I do have a
right?
challenge. Since Fahad's all about challenges, why can't we get Fahad doing a pistol squat? Because he can do everything, right?
Because we don't want him to hurt himself.
Fahad, what do you think about that?
I don't want him to hurt
Just
himself.
do it, bro.
No, I don't want him.
Come on. Now see, his back hurts.
You know he'd hurt himself. Nobody wants to see somebody get hurt, but we have to jump down. I think Justin's going to be on the bell. It's lowered here. It's been a fun day. It's coming to an end. Meta's on a bit of a rally as we head into the second last trading day of the week. 5, 4, 3, 2, and ring it. So two things. One, standing desks are great. I think it would be a challenge for us to use them doing the show. Two, the Packy Chip Challenge, which someone just asked about, I will do the Packy Chip Challenge. We're supposed to reach 5,000 likes on the morning show. If the morning show ever does 5,000 likes, Fahad will do it with me, he's saying. Fahad and I will do the Packy Chip Challenge, but it's 5,000 likes for the morning show. Brendan, it can't be that good, but how did the market finish up?
All right, let's get a look here, guys, at a very red board to wrap things up, unfortunately. Ouch. On top of what happened yesterday, 2.5% there for the S&P. It was the NASDAQ all day that led, 3.25, 3.3 for the composite and the 100 to the downside. Do we bounce heading into the weekend? Tomorrow, I'm going to sound really cheesy here, but join us then to find out.
Tune in, same bat time, same bat channel. I'm saying that because you have the bat thing on. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll be right back here. Whatever the market does, we're going to keep it real. We're going to keep the trades real. We're going to keep on giving you the goods every single day. It is still the bear, of course. I hope you enjoy your day. We're not going to linger too much here, and we're going to get out of Dodge, quite frankly, because the weather's not that fantastic here, and I know you've got to get home.
It's only rain.
Anyone, if you're in the GTA, get home safely. We could see some freezing rain here. And if you're down south, I know there's a storm headed to New York as well, so everyone be safe. We are Trader TV Live. This market is wild, and it's going to be even better tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow for the Rebalance Day.